I'm Emily, 33, sitting in a Seattle courtroom, watching my husband of 8 years, Jake, sign divorce papers with a smug chuckle. He always saw me as his pretty arm candy, devoid of ambition. What he didn't know was that while he was cheating with a colleague, I was quietly building my own empire right under his nose. The judge is about to read my financial disclosure, and I can't wait to see Jake's self-satisfied grin vanish. But before I dive into how I got here, I'd love to hear where you're reading from. Drop it in the comments and hit like if you've ever had to prove yourself when no one thought you could. I grew up in a small town in Idaho, dreaming big and moving to Seattle to study graphic design. My parents, practical and frugal, taught me to work hard and manage money wisely, values that later became the bedrock of my success. I met Jake at a charity gala for a children's hospital, where I'd volunteered to design the promotional materials. He was there, I later learned, mostly to polish his public image. Jake came from old money, worked as an investment banker, and exuded the confidence of someone who never worried about a bill. "You look like you don't belong here," he said when we met, a line that, in hindsight, foreshadowed our entire relationship. Back then, though, his charming smile and attentive gaze won me over. Our romance was a whirlwind. Jake took me to restaurants where menus didn't list prices. We jetted off to San Francisco on a whim, plunging me into a world I'd only seen in movies. As a budding graphic designer scraping by at a small marketing agency, it was intoxicating. I loved my job, the creativity, the challenges, the thrill of making something tangible. But to Jake, it was trivial. He called my career a cute little hobby, insisting I didn't need to work. "Why stress over pennies when I can give you everything?" he'd say. To him, my job was a waste of time. To me, it was my identity. 6 months after we met, he proposed in a swanky restaurant overlooking Puget Sound. The ring was dazzling, the moment straight out of a fairy tale. I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was small and elegant, as I wanted, despite his family's preference for a lavish spectacle. His mother, Margaret, made a snide remark about my choice of simplicity, a modest wedding for a modest girl. Our honeymoon in the Bahamas was magical, but reality set in when we moved into Jake's sleek downtown condo. Everything was modern, expensive, and cold, like his family. I tried to add warmth, art, colors, personal touches, but Jake preferred sterility, a showcase of wealth over a home that reflected us. Trouble brewed early. Jake criticized my decorating ideas, my friends, even my career. "Graphic design is for average people," he said after meeting my colleagues, dismissing my work as pointless. I tried to fit into his world, meeting the wives of his banker and executive friends, women who filled their days with shopping, spa visits, and charity luncheons. They were polite to my face but catty behind my back. At a dinner party, I overheard one say I was Jake's little middle-class experiment. He didn't defend me. Instead, he suggested I rethink my wardrobe or take up golf to fit in. Slowly, I started becoming what he wanted, a polished accessory to his perfect life. The creative, independent woman I'd been began to fade. 2 years into our marriage, Jake's control tightened, especially over money. Despite our joint accounts, he scrutinized my every expense while splurging on luxury watches or golf clubs without a second thought. "Another set of art supplies," he'd scoff, eyeing a bank statement. "That's money we could have invested." Meanwhile, I was quietly laying the groundwork for something of my own, a secret he'd never suspect. Jake's grip on our finances grew suffocating. He'd question every coffee I bought, while his own spending, thousands on a new suit or a weekend in Vegas, went unquestioned. I felt like a teenager on an allowance, despite being his wife. My visits to my family in Idaho dwindled. Jake always had an excuse, a client dinner, a business trip, or his disdain for my small-town roots. My college friends faded too, dismissed by Jake as not fitting his world. "Did your friend Lisa really serve Napa Valley wine?" he mocked after a dinner I hosted. As if we'd stooped to domestic. My career, once a source of pride, became a constant battleground. When I was offered a promotion to senior designer, Jake didn't celebrate. Is the tiny raise worth the stress and time away from home? He asked. We're planning a family soon, aren't we? That was news to me. He'd always dodged the topic, saying the timing wasn't right. Around this time, I discovered digital marketing. My agency was expanding its services, and I volunteered to learn analytics and strategy. I loved it, understanding consumer behavior, crafting campaigns with measurable impact. Excited, I shared my dream of starting my own marketing firm. Jake's response crushed me. Be realistic, Emily. Running a business takes skills you don't have. Most startups fail within a year. Our views on money revealed our core differences. Jake chased status, the right address, the flashiest car, the most exclusive vacations. I believed in frugality, smart investments, and value beyond price tags, lessons from my Idaho upbringing. By our third anniversary, Jake's late nights became routine. Volatile markets, key clients, or quarterly reports, he'd say, but his absence was constant. I ate alone, slept alone, living like a single woman under his financial thumb. Our first major fight erupted after his family's traditional Christmas dinner. On the drive home, his mother bluntly asked when we'd give her grandchildren. I said I was ready when Jake was, but he brushed it off. At home, he turned cold when I pressed him. Kids mean responsibility and costs, he said. With your career and my family's expectations, a child needs trust funds, private schools, connections. We're not there yet. I was stunned. Not there? Jake, you earn millions. Your family has generational wealth. His reply cut deep. My money's not the issue. You haven't found your place. What could you contribute to a child's future? Those words seared into me, his dismissal of my work, his contempt for my ambitions. A quiet resolve took root. I needed financial independence, not just for security but for my sanity. That week, I opened a secret bank account, funneling small amounts from my salary, unnoticed by Jake's meticulous oversight. I devoured books on investing, took free online courses on entrepreneurship, and subscribed to business newsletters, all in incognito mode. The woman once dazzled by luxury dinners and designer vacations woke up, realizing she was in a gilded cage, plotting her escape. While Jake stayed late at work, I laid the foundation for my freedom. With my growing savings, I quietly launched Emily Grant Digital Solutions. I built a sleek website showcasing my portfolio and services. The challenge was carving out time without Jake noticing. I turned our rarely used guest room into an office, claiming I was freelancing to supplement our income. Jake barely cared, saying, as long as it doesn't interfere with our social obligations. My first client came by chance at a coffee shop. I overheard Sarah Martinez, owner of a struggling local bakery, lamenting the high costs of marketing agencies. I can't afford $5,000 for a campaign, but I'm losing to big chains, she told the barista. I introduced myself, explained my background, and offered my services at a fraction of the cost, building my portfolio. Sarah trusted me, and the results were astounding. Her social media engagement tripled, and a targeted email campaign landed corporate catering gigs. That success marked my first milestone, proving I was onto something big. Sarah's bakery triumph wasn't just a professional win, it sparked a friendship I'd lacked in Jake's curated world. She recommended me to other small business owners, and my client base grew through word of mouth. Sarah was honest, hardworking, and valued my skills in a way Jake never did. You've got a gift, Emily, she said over coffee. You see what makes a business special and know how to show it to the world. While Jake was away on business trips, I worked late, turning our walk-in closet into a makeshift recording studio with old college blankets for soundproofing. Each new project was thrilling yet terrifying, exciting because my business was growing, nerve-wracking because discovery could unravel everything. The learning curve was steep. I miscalculated quotes, overpromised occasionally, but learned fast. Every job taught me about business strategy, setting boundaries, and valuing my work. I invested my earnings in essentials, software, equipment, hiding expenses among household bills or paying cash. My client list expanded steadily, and I reinvested profits into the business, saving a portion for future ventures. Jake remained oblivious, mistaking my growing confidence for acceptance of his lifestyle, not professional fulfillment. A turning point came when I worked with a local jeweler whose sales soared after my campaign, earning a mention in a small business magazine. I stayed anonymous for privacy, but the success boosted my credibility, attracting bigger clients. Through Sarah, I met Natalie Chen, a tech entrepreneur who'd sold her first startup for millions and was launching another. A small project for her grew into a close partnership, and she became my mentor. "You're undercharging," Natalie said bluntly, reviewing my rates. "Triple your prices and watch how your perceived value shifts." She was right. Higher rates didn't lose me clients, they drew established companies willing to pay for quality. Natalie introduced me to investing. "Cash loses value sitting in a bank," she said. "Make it work for you." Under her guidance, I started small, investing in tech startups, including her new AI-driven company for small businesses. As my firm grew, so did my portfolio. For the first time since marrying Jake, I felt alive, independent, fulfilled. Yet, I played the dutiful wife at his dinner parties, smiling through shallow chatter about fashion or charity, all while running a thriving business and making strategic investments from home. This double life was exhausting but empowering. Each new client, successful campaign, and investment return was a step toward freedom from a controlling marriage. 5 years in, cracks appeared. A text flashed on Jake's phone while he showered, "Miss you already." Last night was, the rest was cut off, but suspicion took hold. Jake grew distant, coming home smelling of unfamiliar perfume, claiming he hugged clients goodbye. I didn't confront him immediately, instead watching closely, late meetings every Thursday, weekend conferences I couldn't find online, frequent dinners at the same upscale restaurant. One Thursday, I told Jake I was helping Sarah, but instead parked near the restaurant. At 8:30 p.m., his Tesla pulled up. 10 minutes later, a silver Audi arrived, and Vanessa Pierce, his colleague, stepped out. I recognized her instantly. They embraced, not like co-workers, and he kissed her before they entered. My hands shook as I snapped photos, my stomach a cold, hollow weight. I walked into the restaurant, heart pounding, and approached their cozy corner table, his hand on hers. "This explains the late meetings," I said calmly. Jake recoiled, his face cycling through shock, guilt, and anger at being caught. Vanessa grabbed her purse and left with a flimsy excuse. "Emily, it's not what you think," Jake started, his voice smooth as if closing a deal. "Really? Because it looks like you're dining with your mistress while your wife thinks you're working." His half-hearted apology blamed me. "You're so wrapped up in your little freelance gigs, Emily. You've become boring, ambitionless. When did you last try for our marriage?" I left alone, driving aimlessly before returning home, his words echoing, fueling my resolve. Jake came home past midnight, promising to end the affair, suggesting couples therapy, even a second honeymoon. I played along, saying I needed time, not to forgive, but to plan. The next weeks were a silent war, each of us playing our part with hidden motives. Jake brought flowers, planned romantic dinners, but I was already consulting divorce attorneys, disguised as client meetings. Natalie recommended Teresa Washington, a sharp lawyer who outlined Washington state's equitable distribution laws. "No mandatory separation period here," she explained. "Assets acquired during marriage are divided fairly, not necessarily equally, especially without a prenup." She urged me to document all finances. Knowledge was power in a divorce. I gathered bank statements, investment records, and property details, but my carelessness cost me. Jake found my browser history on our shared computer, searches about divorce and asset disclosure. I'd forgotten incognito mode. He cornered me in the kitchen, face red with rage. Planning to divorce me and take my money, he spat. Without me, you're nothing. My family's lawyers will crush you. I stayed calm, which enraged him more. I'm just informing myself after what you did, I said. Wouldn't you? He backed off, but the threat lingered. That night, I secured my business files in a private cloud and stored backups in a safe deposit box Jake didn't know about. 3 weeks later, another betrayal surfaced. Cleaning our closet, a task Jake never touched, I found a jewelry box in his winter boots. Inside was a Tiffany & Company receipt for a $15,000 diamond bracelet, dated 2 months earlier, a gift I never received. The sting of his investment in Vanessa hurt more than expected. As I processed this, I heard the front door open, Jake's voice mingling with a woman's laughter. Frozen in the closet, I listened as they entered our bedroom, not expecting me home midday. I stepped out to find them entwined at the foot of our bed. Emily! Jake exclaimed, not releasing Vanessa. You're supposed to be at work. I left early, I said, voice steady. Should have called. Jake turned cold, businesslike. Guess this saves me a tough talk. I want a divorce. Vanessa and I are planning a future. He offered me my personal items and a small settlement to start over, claiming the condo, investments, and art. My lawyers will be in touch, he said. I replied, this is still my home legally. I'm staying. You two can get a hotel. His glare darkened, but Vanessa pulled him away. You'll regret rejecting my generous offer, he hissed. You'll be lucky to afford a studio in a bad neighborhood. I shut the door behind them, a smile breaking through. Jake had no idea what was coming. The next day, he moved out, and I changed the locks, a risky move, but it bought time to catalog our assets. His first settlement offer was laughable, $75,000 and 6 months of alimony to waive all claims, including the condo I'd helped furnish. He's testing you, Teresa said. He thinks you're clueless about your rights or our wealth. We rejected it, initiating financial disclosure, forcing both sides to reveal assets. Jake's lawyers stalled, hiding accounts, but I'd tracked our finances for years, including offshore accounts he thought I didn't know about. We strategized to withhold my business's value initially. In Washington, businesses started during marriage are typically marital property, but Teresa found a loophole. Since Jake discouraged my venture and contributed nothing, we could argue it was separate property. Let him believe his narrative about you, Teresa advised. Meanwhile, Jake launched a social smear campaign. Mutual acquaintances ghosted me, invitations dried up, even our building's doorman grew cold. I learned Jake spread lies that I'd cheated, was unstable, and that he'd tried to save our marriage. His family's influence made his story stick in their elite circles, isolating me further. Only Sarah and Natalie stood by me. People who believe gossip without hearing your side aren't worth your time, Sarah said over emergency cupcakes in her bakery. Focus on your new life, not the old one. Their support kept me grounded as I prepared to face Jake in court, ready to reveal the empire I'd built in secret. Jake's arrogance became his downfall. He hid Cayman Islands accounts, undervalued his portfolio, and claimed sole ownership of gifted heirlooms, mistakes Teresa meticulously documented. My business, meanwhile, soared. A campaign for a regional restaurant chain went viral, earning industry buzz. I declined press interviews, citing privacy, but landed a 6-figure contract with a national retailer, elevating my firm to new heights. I hired 3 staff, leased a small office, and began rejecting clients misaligned with my values. Jake and his lawyers still painted me as a failed freelancer dependent on him, blind to my independence. The night before our final court date, I sat in the condo that never felt like home, reflecting on the past 5 years. I'd molded myself to please Jake, nearly losing who I was. His betrayal, though painful, had forced me to rediscover my strength. I packed a bag, knowing I'd never spend another night there. My new penthouse, bought through a company Jake didn't know existed, awaited, filled with art and warmth that reflected me, not status. Natalie texted, "Remember who you are tomorrow, not who he tried to make you." Court day dawned crisp and clear. I wore a navy pantsuit and a diamond pendant Sarah and Natalie gave me for my business's first anniversary, my Independence Diamond. I arrived early, as Teresa advised. Jake was there, in a tailored charcoal suit, with Lawrence Wilson, a top Seattle divorce attorney known for ruthless tactics. Jake smirked, whispering to Lawrence, oozing confidence. Teresa arrived in a bold burgundy suit, her calm authority a stark contrast to Lawrence's entourage. "Ready?" she asked. "More than ever," I replied. Judge Margaret Thompson's courtroom was stark but intimidating. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, was known for fairness and no tolerance for theatrics. Jake played the victim masterfully, claiming he'd supported my modest dreams, only to face ungrateful demands. "I just want a fair resolution, Your Honor," he said, feigning disappointment. Lawrence argued the condo was Jake's, paid with his income, downplaying my contributions. I stayed composed, even as Jake leaned close, whispering, "Good luck back in your parents' basement," as he signed the initial divorce decree. Teresa presented our case with precision, exposing Jake's hidden accounts, lavish spending on Vanessa, and financial control. Mr. Grant failed to fully disclose marital assets, as required by Washington law, she said, submitting evidence of his omissions. Jake shifted uncomfortably, his smugness fading. Lawrence requested a recess. Judge Thompson denied it. "I'm particularly interested in these undisclosed assets," she said. Teresa then revealed our ace, my business, Emily Grant Digital Solutions, built without Jake's support, potentially exempt from marital property. She presented emails and texts where Jake mocked my hobby, proving his lack of involvement. Judge Thompson turned to me. "Has the court received full details of your business, Mrs. Grant?" "Not yet, Your Honor," I said, as planned. Teresa handed over a sealed envelope with my financials, a calculated move. The judge opened it, her eyebrows rising slightly. "I'll read Mrs. Grant's asset summary for the record," she said. Emily Grant Digital Solutions, founded 3 years ago, valued at $4.2 million based on revenue and contracts. Jake's head snapped up, his jaw dropping. Investment portfolio in tech stocks and startups, $2 million. Real estate, a penthouse purchased 3 months ago, valued at $950,000. Total assets, $6.95 million. Jake gripped the table, pale, as Lawrence whispered frantically. Judge Thompson asked if he wished to revise his claims about my dependency. Speechless, he didn't respond. Lawrence argued Jake deserved a share, but Teresa cited a prenup clause, ironic, as it was meant to protect Jake, stating businesses founded without spousal contribution remain separate. The judge upheld it, ruling my business and investments as mine alone. Due to Jake's deception, I received a larger share of marital assets, and the condo was to be sold, proceeds split equitably. As we left, Jake approached, his lawyer trailing. "You planned this to ruin me," he hissed. "No, Jake," I said. "I built something while you destroyed what we had." Teresa guided me out. Later, over champagne with Sarah, Natalie, and Teresa by the waterfront, we toasted new beginnings. My penthouse became my sanctuary, my business expanded nationally, and I reconnected with my Idaho family, healing old wounds. Therapy helped me process the years of control, and I launched a foundation for women's financial education. A year later, at a gala, Jake admitted he'd underestimated me. I felt only distant pity. His rejection had freed me to become who I was meant to be. If you've ever been underestimated and proved them wrong, share your story below. Thanks for joining my journey.